Today's a new day, a fresh taste of new grace. Gratitude on sky high. Today's a new day, let the old pass away. Gratitude on sky high. No more chains, no more masks. Time to make a change. No more holding myself back. Answering my purpose on embracing life. I'm valuable. Today's a new day, a fresh taste of new grace. Gratitude on sky high. No more flaws, embracing all. No more limits.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your season finale of What's in Your Cup Conversations. I am your favorite life balance and confidence coach and your favorite talk show host, Consuela Nicole. And let me tell you, today is an amazing day and it's an emotional day. I want to first thank each and every one of you that has been rocking with us, have been supporting us, and been going forward with us since day one. We are in the season finale, and I'm excited about today for a few different reasons, right? For one, y'all already know who's here, but I'm going to have to tell you about that in a second. But before I do anything else, y'all, one of the main reasons why this is an emotional show for me today is 31 years ago, I was given and blessed with the title of mom. My Gemini, my first heartbeat, Constancia, turns 31 years old today. She has made 31 cycles around the sun. Baby, I love you. You are blossoming and evolving into an amazing young lady, and mom could not be prouder of you. And yes, y'all, I know y'all hear me talk about the Wiggle. The Wiggle is my grandbaby. The Wiggle not my baby. The Wiggle is my daughter's baby. But this is my daughter, and I know she look like my twin. I know she do. But this is my baby, y'all. So help me congratulate my baby and say happy birthday to my Gemini and to my baby. And it's on the season finale, season 1 finale of What's in Your Cup Conversations, y'all. I'm excited, and we got a lot going on today, and I got some other good stuff I want to share, but we're going to do that later. I see y'all. Javon, I see you. Brother Price, thank you so much for joining in. Dr. Johnson. So let me tell y'all, because I know my guest today got a lot to say, and I have no idea what is going to come out of his mouth, but we're going to let it happen because that's what we love about this man, right? We're talking no other than Mr. M.J. Harris. We all know he is an internationally recognized entrepreneur, executive producer, and global voice for living your best life, right? We know we've all seen the videos, we've all followed, we've all commented, all the good stuff, right? We're going to talk about that. I know most people call him your best friend, your sister girl, your uncle, your daddy, whatever you call him. I also call him mentor. He don't know it, but I call him mentor, and I definitely have to give flowers where flowers is due. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the season finale of What's in Your Cup Conversations, Mr. M.J. Harris.
Hey, Consuela.
Hello, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. I'm so happy to see your face because I see you on social media, but I'm happy to see you live.
It's been a minute, but it was so worth it. You have no. So you, sir, are the main driving force of helping me prepare for What's in Your Cup Conversations. You know, I had no issues jumping on the stage. I had no issues grabbing a microphone and talking in front of a live audience.
And winning
crowns. Yes. my uncomfortable spot was talking in front of a camera because I didn't know how to necessarily read a virtual crowd. One day you said, "Hey, you gonna do this," and I was like, "I'm gonna do what?" I had no idea. I had no opportunity to say, "No, I'm not." You was like, "Yeah, you're gonna do this, and it's gonna start on this day." Oh, and you threw me in the hot seat, and for that,
You did
I say
amazing.
thank you very, very much. Um, but we're gonna talk about it. So, as you know, what's in your cup conversations? A good portion of your life you live in front of the camera, right?
Yeah.
And you talk about the transparent portions and all that. And you know, in society, we talk about the beginning of someone's story, and we talk about the where they are now, the highlights, the glitz and the glam. But no one talks about the hills and the valleys and the mountains in between, and what they had to give up and what they had to throw out and all the other stuff that's pertinent to the everyday person. That is one of the many reasons why I love you so much, because your stories and your talks go toward not just the celebrities, right? They talk to the everyday person. Hey, my own daughter listens to it and she listens to me. So, you know, it is what it is. So I know I made all these introductions of who we see when we see MJ Harris, right? Of what's currently in your cup. But I have to ask, when you look in the mirror, who do you see? What's in your cup? When people say, "Who are you? Who are you?"
Well, you know, I think that as we go into each new phase of our life, we learn a new version of ourselves. So I can say at this phase of my life, you know, I see myself as an empty nester because it's just me here, which I'm loving.
Yeah.
I am an introverted person, incredibly introverted person who never really learned how not to be introverted. I learned how to be on a camera. But when that camera was off, I was always the same introvert. And so I'm learning to open myself up and build a world that doesn't rely on me taking care of people, or build a social life that doesn't rely on my family, but that a life
Right.
that is actually built on me connecting with like-minded people who are my peers, and building a life for myself. And I think that that's something that a lot of people can relate to, because you know, when the kids leave, when the marriage ends, when you move to a new location and you're away from everything you've known, now it's an opportunity for you to really get to know who are you. And so for me, I see myself, I love what Roy just said about we're all continuously evolving. I see myself as someone who's very intentional about it evolving at this point in time in my life. And I have to tell you, I've never been happier.
I love it. I love it. So I have to ask. I gotta ask. So I read the book,
Mm-hmm.
but then I went back and I had to listen to the audio version.
Mm-hmm.
Don't nobody tell a story like MJ tell a story. I'm just saying, what I read and then what I heard, I promise you, sounded like two completely different stories, right?
Yeah.
But one of the first things that jumped out at me was a quote from your mom.
Mm-hmm.
If you share your story with folks, it takes away the shame from you.
Yes.
And then
Mm-hmm.
you added, and when you share it, it takes away that power. Explain. Explain that to us, because I know that that's a lot for a lot of people. We close off and we don't want to say that we're going through issues because of the fear of being judged, right? That it's going to be used against us, and no one talks about it. How can you explain that topic for me?
Well, you know, I think that it's very, very, very prevalent in our community. You know, we don't generally, we're not conditioned to share our stories. Many of us do, but a lot of us
Right.
don't. And it's like you said,
Correct.
because the fear of someone using it against you, the fear of shame and whatever it may be. And I just remember my mother, I remember being a kid and just, you know, my earliest memories in life was sitting in AA meetings with my mother because she couldn't afford childcare. So she would go to
Okay.
AA meetings and she'd pick us up from school. So we preschool, 4 and 5 years old, and we're going to sit in the AA meetings with her. I remember I would sit on the floor beside her chair, and,
Wow.
have a coloring book and everything like that. And I was aware of what it was, in the most appropriate way possible. She explained to me what it was.
Okay.
And I just remember my mother always being very transparent about where she was at and where she was going. And what she'd always say was, if I own my story, can't nobody use that against me. You can't make me ashamed of something that I already put out there. And I think that we're so afraid of the shame of sharing our story, but I think the greater shame comes from not sharing it. You have some really divisive people who may try to use it against you. Family members like, girl, let's not talk about what you've been through. You know how they try to do in those moments,
Maybe yes.
right?
Yes.
But they don't have no power to do that. But beyond that, even if you don't have anyone around you with any nefarious or horrible intentions, it frees you. Because your story is your story. And that's not to say that you enjoyed every part of it, or that if you could do it all over again, you would want to repeat some parts of your story. I'm not saying that at all. When I'm saying embrace your story, what I'm saying is owning the fact that it is your story, and owning the fact that there's nothing you can do to change the past. But you can use your story as a foundation once you embrace it to build towards a better life, where if you are in the spirit of wanting to help people, then that can be potentially a platform for you to use to help people.
Oh, I love that. That is awesome. That is true. That goes with something that you say all the time in regards to standing in your truth, because it is your story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
you talk a lot, not just in the book, but even during your story times, you talk a lot about triggers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing your triggers and working through your triggers. What can you share with us about your triggers, or what triggers that you found out that you had, and ways to work? I'm going to say work through them, not get over them, because I don't think we ever truly get over them. We just have to learn how to work through them, because for whatever reason, when life starts life, and they always tend to come back. What can you share with us about your triggers and how you kind of work through those?
Well, my thing is, I'm as human as the next person. I've been through ups and downs, traumas and dramas, peaks and valleys, trials and triumphs. I've been through everything. And I think that the thing about life is, if you go through anything, you will have some residuals from it, which we like to call triggers, because that's what I think of them as, or shadows. People have different terms. And to your point, I don't think that they ever really go away. But how I've learned to manage my triggers is this. It's, first of all, and this is really key, I don't deal with people who intentionally trigger me, or who unintentionally consistently trigger me. Because some people may have the best of intentions, but they just don't mesh with you, and that's okay. That don't mean you got to cut them out your life, but it may mean you need to put them in a different category within your life, or maybe you're not interacting with them quite as much. So I give myself permission at this stage in my life to be selective about who I give my time to, be able to say, you know what, I love you, you're a wonderful person, but the way that we mesh don't really work for me, okay? And I get triggered, and even if you don't get triggered, I get triggered. So how do we have a relationship that allows us to deal with each other at a frequency of interactions that's going to work for us both? So that's one way I manage my triggers. Another way I manage my triggers is for people who've earned the space of being close to me, because I think people need to earn that space of being close to you. For all of us, I'm very open about, what triggers me. I'll tell you up front, hey, on the days where I haven't slept very well or anything like that, I'm tired. This literally just happened. Okay. Talking to someone in my life, and literally we were out doing something, and he keeps looking at me, you good? You good? And I realized that I was triggered by something that happened earlier. He had nothing to do with it, nothing at all to do with it. Okay. And so what I've had to learn was, rather than being triggered and it coming out towards him or someone else who's close to me, what I said to him was, I said, you know what? I'm actually annoyed about XYZ that happened earlier, and it has nothing to do with you, but I don't know how to change my facial expression right now, so that's why I'm being quiet. I'm open. I'm honest. And he's like, oh, okay, I get it. That way he didn't have to take it personal. Right? Okay. I don't know how to change my facial expression right now. And I don't know how to really talk about it right now without it coming out in a way that's going to because it could affect you. One of the things I love about it is he's a sensitive guy, So I'm very open about my state of feeling. And I tell people what I feel early and often, because I feel like when people are aware of what you're feeling, they then can respect that. But I think that where our triggers come out in a way that can be harmful to other people and harmful to our relationships is when we try to bottle it up. And then what happens is it then comes out in the form of an explosion, and the debris from that explosion ends up hitting people who it was never intended for. So I found that when you talk to people early and often about what your emotional state is, you find that people, A, can be compassionate towards you, and in some ways can help support you through that triggered moment, even if it's just being with you in silence.
Oh, nice. Okay, so then let me ask you this, because you talk about family a lot, right? What if one of those triggers is from a bloodline family member, like your blood sister or your mom or someone that holds one of those, that facial expression, right? So one of those that hold one of those titles, right? How do you deal with that type of trigger?
You must understand. You know that Tim Turner song, What's Love Got to Do with It? Though the touch of your hand. Oh, what's love? What's love got to do with it, baby? Okay? What's love got to do with it?
I love
They can
it.
be your family, but sometimes you can have family members who are the most unhealthy people for you on earth.
Ooh.
On earth. Okay? It's not the person who's ringing up your food who catches an attitude with you that's gonna trigger you the most. It's not the person at your job who gets on your nerves. It's not even, the person who you casually dating. It's that person who's known you since the beginning of time, right? Or vice versa, or you've known it for a long time. And so with that understood, what I say is this: take family member, take the title off of that person. Not that they're not your family, take that as you're evaluating the situation. Take the title off just for a moment. And what you need to do is identify this person, A, by their behavior, and B, by the impacts on you, right? This person I experience this person as manipulative. I experience this person as temperamental. I experience this person as selfish, whatever the experiences you're having with this person, right? Take that title off of this is my whoever. What are the experiences you're having with this person? Now let's talk about how they make you feel. I feel insufficient in their presence. I feel angry in their presence. I feel enraged. I feel sad, whatever it may be. Let's lock into the experiences and let's lock into the emotions. And then ask yourself, if this person was not your whatever family member title that they have, how would you deal with someone else who made you feel these ways?
Okay.
Just because they hold a certain title in your life does not mean that they should have to evade being properly placed in the spaces in your life that are safe for you to be in relation with them. Sometimes we allow family members to get certain spaces and certain levels of access to us that allows them to hurt us at levels that is beyond even being able to comprehend. Because anybody else who would treat us that bad, no, I can't let them get this close to me. I can't let them do that. I have to deal with them differently. I need better boundaries with them. I don't need to deal with them at all. But with family members, we let them hurt us so bad. And so again, I'm not promoting for you to cut off that relationship. But what I am saying is sometimes relationships need to be realigned so that new boundaries can be put in place to protect you from what that person brings to you.
Okay. So I have to ask, right? I have to put this out there. I asked you for a very, very specific picture, right? Because you are, like I said, majority of your time, or I'm not going to say majority, a lot of your time, you are in front of a camera, right?
I am. Yes. Now I remember what you asked for. I remember now. Okay.
Right.
I was like, so, I remember.
I asked you, but it always seems like, I promise you, 99% of the time, it seems like you always have this smile on your face. You're always pouring into other people. You're always upbeat and laughing and making the best of everything. And I asked you for a picture of where on the outside to the world you looked happy, that everything was going above and beyond, but on the inside you were screaming, enough was enough and I'm tired. This was the picture you sent to me.
Yes.
What was going on? And first of all, you went and got some ink. I was shocked.
I did. I'm trying to be like you.
He's family now. But what was going on during this time of your life? Like,
So first of all, let me tell you this: you're a really good interviewer, Consuela. You really are. You're a really good interviewer. I'm going to tell you that. But let me move on to answer your question. I had to share that with you. This that I was getting a tattoo because my grandmother had a stroke, and I had a dream. I don't mean this. I don't want to weird people out, but my dreams have often come true in a lot of ways. In terms of like things I've literally seen in my dream. And I remember the night before I was notified that she had a stroke. The dream was that a very special person in my life was going to have a stroke and was going to pass away. I literally had that dream the night before. And then I got a text message the next day from my dad who said, your grandmother's not able to, her speech was a little slurred. We took her to the doctor to get checked out. And I told him, I said, no, she had a stroke. I didn't say the death part, but I said, no, she had a stroke. And he said, okay, well, they're still checking around. I said, okay, well, I think you need to prepare yourself for that news. And so nonetheless, I bring up my grandmother because my grandmother is someone who I talk to literally, I've talked to her probably every other day my whole life since I could dial a phone, right? Every other day. There have been moments where I'm a little about to go on a stage, I'm talking to her, while I'm sitting getting my makeup on, she's on the phone, I'm reviewing a contract about something, even though she may not have been in all the business details. I could talk about, hey, I'm thinking about this, thinking about that. I could just vent. Even if she didn't have advice, she could be a listening ear. My grandmother was my Gail, okay, literally in every way, shape, or form. Like every single thing I talked to her about. And so when she had that stroke, which was literally maybe a week or two prior to that photo, I knew that a very special person in my life was no longer going to be with us at some point in time in the future. And so I got a tattoo here that I can't really show it. It says, put yourself first. And I put it here so I could see it more than anything else. Because it was something she would always tell me. Because whenever I called about anything and I was complaining, if someone had tried to hurt me, someone had done something really malicious or horrible to me. When you're in the entertainment space, you deal with some of the most, probably some of the most fucked up shit on earth sometimes. It just is what it is. And so when I would talk to her, one thing she always says, put yourself first. And make sure your next move reflects you putting yourself first. Put yourself first to protect yourself. Put yourself first. Tell this person's hurting my feelings, this family member, this date, this whoever. Put yourself first. If you put yourself first, what decision would you make for yourself? And so in that moment, I had just gotten that tattoo, literally. I had just gotten that tattoo. And I was in so much pain because I knew that at some point in time in the relative near future, she was going to be gone, and that this was going to be the only physical memory that I'd be able to have with me about her. And so for me, it was a time of grieving, getting that tattoo, because I wanted something physical that I could hold on to that would remind me of a powerful lesson. So I think that was definitely what was happening in that moment.
What was happening? Well, definitely first and foremost, my continued prayers to you and your family, because I know your granny recently gained her wings. So I get that love with the grandma, because that was my grandma, right? And me and my grandma shared a birthday. So when she passed away, my entire world was shattered. She was shattered. She was my biggest cheerleader, right? She was the one. Don't get me wrong, I love my mother. But my grandmother was that one that was like, baby, you can go do anything. I don't care what size you are. Right. So, I know that grandmother love. So, and this is a question I had for you, and someone else is asking the same question, right? For someone that's in the spotlight and just all out good person, who do you go to refill your cup? How do you take time to refill your cup to remain balanced?
Well, for a very long time it was my grandmother. So I'm learning a new answer to that question now. She's been gone for less than a month now. And so that is a void, I will tell you, in my life as it relates to her and having that person to go to. But fortunately, one of the beautiful things about traveling and making home in different places around the world is that it gives me the opportunity to be so intentional about meeting new people. And I've been able to make some really beautiful relationships with people who have been people that I can confide in and be close to. One of my good friends who I just met relatively recently, but just a kindred spirit. We were talking just the other day, and I was talking about something I was going through, and he just completely related to me. So, one of the beautiful things about my grandmother and even recognizing the loss of that relationship is that I recognized that the beauty of my relationship with my grandmother was not something that couldn't be replicated elsewhere. The beauty of my relationship with my grandmother was that she was one of the people on earth that I allowed myself to be truly vulnerable with and truly open with. And when you're willing to be truly vulnerable and truly open with people who show that they deserve it, they have to show that they deserve it first, you can create beautiful bonds so many more times. Sometimes we lose that person and we have a big bond with them. We think, I'll never have this again. But what we don't understand is that that bond was built on vulnerability, was built on two people who allowed each other to feel safe. And sometimes we don't understand that that is something that you can actually be intentional about recreating. Maybe it won't look the same. You'll never have another relationship that will look like the one you had with your grandmother, and neither will I. But that sense of closeness can come through other people if we are open and if we choose to just move in the world, trusting in God, the universe, whatever you believe in. I say God, you know, trusting that God will never leave a void for too long.
Oh, amen. So I have, you know, people are saying, well, MJ, it's easy for you. You have the money to do it. You can move around. You can do this. You can do that. You can do the third. It wasn't always this easy for you.
No,
You,
and I
you
wouldn't say
didn't always
it's
have
that easy now. I definitely wouldn't. You know, for me, you know, I work in the entertainment industry and I'm an entrepreneur. And so with that said, my income's not consistent in any way, shape, or form. It goes up, down, and all around. You talk to any entertainer, you know, they'll tell you that much. And for me, what it has been is that my moving around and everything like that, I would say it's made it harder to meet new people, because at least when you're staying in one location, you know, you understand the culture of that place. Because take South Africa, for instance. Yes, English is the prominent language, but there are cultural nuances that I just don't, that's not my foundation. So you're trying to learn a new culture while also trying to understand how to connect with people in that culture. It can make it more challenging. So maybe because I work remotely, that allows me to be able to have flexibility. Well, that's great. Well, a lot of people work remotely as well. But ultimately, I think what's allowed me to be able to connect with people and be able to have these new experiences hasn't been money. And it certainly hasn't been fame, because fame is far more isolating than it is, than it brings people close to you. What it really has been is just me choosing to be intentional, to say, listen, tomorrow's not promised. And I don't know if I'm going to get another chance at life. I don't know about if reincarnation is real or not. So with that said, how can I make sure that today I do my best to go out and meet new people? So for example, earlier today, I was literally, my computer crashed, okay? Human moment. That's why I'm on my phone right now. It's narrow because I wanted to be on my computer, but my computer crashed. I was at the store getting the computer fixed, and trying to figure out all that kind of stuff. And then someone texts me who I recently met and says, hey, you want to go on a bike ride today? And I couldn't leave the store at that moment in time. I was getting my computer fixed. But I said to him, I said, hey, I can't go today because here's the issues happening with my computer. How about tomorrow? It was being intentional about actually saying, well, let's do something. And so I'm very intentional about that kind of stuff. We all have so many people around us who would love to spend time with us, but often the barrier between us spending time with us is we make excuses. We won't create room in our life. We don't reach out, you know? And so that's really the thing that's helped me a lot tremendously at this stage of my life.
Okay. So I want to ask you, I know you talk a lot, especially in your book, right? And if you guys don't have it yet, you need to go get it, right? Hold on. I got something for you. You need to go get it. Go to the website. You can find all areas where you can get the book and audio for those that's stuck in traffic. But you talk about generational traumas, and you've talked about it in your story times, and you've even talked about some of the traumas that you have had to overcome, and some, you know, other people in your life. What steps can you tell other people? And I know you've seen it, and most of the people that's on here have seen that atrocity of a video that's going around, right? But that's something that happens in a lot of families that becomes the family secret, right? And it unfortunately gets passed down and passed on, you know, and it's so many things that come with that. What can you share with our audience on it's okay to speak up, it's okay to get help? Because if not, it literally blows up, like literally.
Well, first, let me say this. Being in an abusive situation of any kind is complex and unique to every individual. And just leaving, while from the outside looking in, we can tell people just leave. If you've ever been in anything like that, it's not always that simple. There are not just emotional factors, there could be children involved. There could be a whole lot of factors that influence how and when and if you leave. And for some people, it influences if they go back, because that happens. But what I can say is this, and my father told me this when I was in a really bad situation. He called me up and he said, I don't normally get in your business, but I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't want to get the call that you done got killed by him. Because even if you don't intentionally do it, what happens when he hits you too hard and you fall and hit your head? Anything can happen. Or when you're trying to get away from to go downstairs and you trip and you go whatever, or you're so just completely hurt and sad about what's happened at the house and you're driving to leave and get some air, but you're not paying attention and you get in a car accident. Right. What happens then? And so, when he told that to me, I thought about it. I was like, this is a life or death situation. I love this man, but I got to love myself enough to get away. And if you have children, that's another element. Because one of the things I always ask people if they're in that situation is I say, listen, do you want your son or daughter to become you who's dealing with this abuse? Or do you want your son or daughter to become your spouse who's inflicting it? Because if you keep exposing them to this, they have a very high probability of becoming one or the other. So you have to think about them as well. And if you don't know how to get away, it may not hurt for you to contact a domestic abuse hotline. They have them in every area. You go to Google and look it up, or contact someone who you really, really, really trust and start to work out what does a plan look like. I'm not saying you have to implement that plan today because it may take you some time to build towards it. That's just reality. Right. But at least let's start building towards something because your future really does depend on this.
Right. And that's great advice, not just for domestic violence though, but that's great advice for sexual abuse, mental abuse, drug abuse, alcohol. And I can personally attest to, I haven't been on the receiving side per se, but I am the child of one who has. I am the sister of one who has. I am the mother of one who has. So it doesn't necessarily just affect that one person. It affects your support system. It affects those that you run back to. And that is something that too many of us, especially those in the Black and Brown community, we hold on to because we grew up, at least I did, right? In that era of what happens in my house stays in my house. That is one of the biggest cliches from then that I truly, truly hate, right? Because that was a statement that it molded my life for a point, and it took me to have my first child to realize that was not right. That was not the thing to do.
Secrets protect predators. That's what it comes down to. Ooh. Secrets protect predators. And I just saw this thing about the gentleman we're talking about. Shaka Khan's daughter had posted something. And she literally just posted, it was on Baller Alert, I want to say. And she was writing in there that she was happy what's going on with him because she said that apparently, or allegedly, that he had screamed and cussed out her mother and totally embarrassed her mother, Shaka Khan. Had embarrassed her in public or something like that. And then when her 19-year-old son, Shaka Khan's son, who was 19 at the time, jumped in, then his security guards she used the word jumped a 19-year-old, trying to basically protect his mom, And, certainly none of us were there or anything like that, but I do believe where there's smoke, there's often fire. And if what they're saying is true, think about so many people who've been hurt in the way that we've now seen in that infamous video. How many people have been, had even worse pain inflicted upon them. So he's a very public example of this, but this happens with non-celebrities. This happens in private spaces that are not on camera, where us trying to keep the family business is allowing multiple generations of people to be traumatized.
Right. So let me ask you this, MJ, with everything you have going on, everything in the world, telling people to get out their own way, right? We are also in a world of the counsel culture, right? Where
Yeah.
we'll counsel you for any reason, no matter who you are, what you look like, anything of that nature. Beautifully flawed. You hear that statement. What does it mean to you to be beautifully flawed?
I think it's just embracing the wholeness of who you are. There's no such thing as a perfect person in any way, shape, or form. Even people who may aesthetically look perfect and through whatever lens we think that they look perfect through, I'm sure they have a whole internal world with flaws or with things that they've gone through, scars that have not been healed. Not all scars are visible on our skin, you
Yeah.
know. And so, to me, I think being beautifully flawed means just accepting that actually you're not flawed. You're just human, and you embrace every part of yourself, you know, the good, the bad, the parts you like and the parts you don't like, and understand that it's okay not to like some parts of yourself, but that still doesn't mean that that has to take away from the parts of yourself that you do like.
I love it. I love it. Well, first, I want to thank you very, very, very much for taking the time to speak with us. One last question. If they heard nothing else you said in the last 30, 40 minutes, if they heard nothing else you said, what is the one thing you want them to take away from our conversation?
I think that the one thing I would say to take away from our conversation, if you take nothing else away, is that this is your life. Nobody's going to give you another one, and no one's going to improve it for you. Not one person. Rather, you are in a moment right now where you feel like you are in your absolute best days. You feel like this is the peak, it's going well, and it can only go up from here. Or you are in your hardest moment right now. Just understand that it will be your choices that will determine what tomorrow is. Because your brightest days can turn to your darkest days if you don't make good choices. And your darkest days can turn to your brightest days if you make good choices. So own the power that you have to make good choices each day, whatever that may mean for you. You have a right to resent what happened to you in the past. You have a right to downright hate some people for what they did to you, baby. That's between you and your God. Okay? But what I'm telling you is that don't allow those emotions to keep you from making the choices that you need to make for yourself today. Because you deserve to have a bright, beautiful future in spite of whatever happened to you. But the only way that's going to happen is if you consciously and intentionally make choices that are going to be building blocks towards that future. And you're invited to do that every single day, every single moment, with every single choice that you have an opportunity to make.
I love it. I love it. Well, you guys, I have nothing else to say. That is the perfect way to end season one. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us for season one of What's in Your Cup Conversations with Consuela Nicole. We will be taking a break for the summertime, but you can make sure you watch all the replays at what'sinyourcupconversations.com. You can catch the links and websites for each and every one of our guests with the upcoming date for season two. If you don't remember anything else from the words of MJ and his grandma, put yourself first. Until next time, everybody, have a good night.
Thanks, Consuela and Nicole.
Thank
Thank
you.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye.